Welcome back to Well Played, presented by theSkimm, the only podcast dedicated to treating the sports world like the bingeable TV it actually is. We are back with our gold medal takes and detailed breakdowns of the biggest sports stories and controversies you care about most. I'm Amanda Duberman.
And I'm Blake Lumerwin, and today we are very sadly putting our closing thoughts on the 2024 Paris Olympics. The games are finally over, but that doesn't mean the show is ending. Make sure you're subscribed to the Well Played podcast feed because there's actually plenty more to come.
That's right, Blake. We have an exciting announcement. Well Played, we're sticking around. We're sticking around to give you our takes on the biggest sports stories dominating your feeds. We're going to be on a short summer vacation for the next 2 weeks, but the show is returning on Tuesday, September 3rd, just in time for the NFL season kickoff, which all starts with a showdown between the Chiefs and the Ravens.
All season long and throughout the year, Well Played will be your source for detailed breakdowns of the best sports headlines and viral stories you'll want to bring back to the group chat. And it's not just about the football of it all. We'll be talking WNBA, NBA, tennis, soccer, you name it. If the sports world is reacting, we got you covered.
Be sure to subscribe now so you don't miss our next episode, which drops in the Well Played podcast feed on Tuesday, September 3rd. So if you fell in love with some of these athletes over these Paris games, they're not done. They don't just lie around for 4 years. They are playing, they are gaming, and we're going to be talking about it right here. We have to keep talking about the Olympics. They have concluded, but I mean,
pour one out for them, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And it is time for the final medal count of Paris 2024. The United States took home, Blake, the most medals with 126, followed by China with 91.
Damn.
The U.S. and China also tied for the most gold medals with 40 apiece. America was trailing in the gold medal count going into Sunday, but the victory for the U.S. women's national team in basketball evened the score, giving the U.S. an overall medal count victory. We will talk all about that game. It was close. It was close. China was close to edging right ahead in gold medals, but we did it, Blake. We did it.
We did it. As always, we begin today's episode of Well Played with the Press Box, a roundup of our favorite stories dominating your feeds this week. So let's shoot our shot like Steph Curry shooting those threes in the fourth quarter, because it's time for the Press Box.
That's a high bar. That's a high bar. So we are obviously beginning today's press box with an update on gymnast Jordan Chiles and her bronze floor medal. Like, I can't stop thinking about this. I cannot stop thinking about this. So in case you missed it, late last week, the IOC announced that Jordan Chiles would be stripped of her bronze medal in the floor exercise after the Court of Arbitration for Sport determined that her coach's inquiry was filed 4 seconds after the 1-minute time limit. And as a result of that, Romania's Ana Barbosu would be reinstated to the bronze position.
But wait, there's a twisty.
There's a twist.
USA Gymnastics says they've time-stamped video evidence proving otherwise. They said, I have those receipts. On Sunday. Yes, there you go. On Sunday, they submitted a letter to the CAS requesting that the ruling be revised because according to video evidence, quote, Coach Cecile Landy's request to file an inquiry was submitted 47 seconds after the publishing of the score, followed by a second statement 55 seconds after the score was originally posted. So that's within
time to spare.
Yeah, they got 5 seconds left on the clock. But on Monday, the CAS denied the appeal. According to USA Gymnastics, the Court of Arbitration stated that their rules do not allow for an arbitral award to be reconsidered even when conclusive new evidence is presented.
That's crazy. That's a crazy thing to say.
That is.
That's a crazy thing to say.
But despite all that, despite the craziness, USA Gymnastics stated that they will continue to pursue the appeal. So it could still be up in the air.
Still up in the air, like Jordan Chiles during a bronze medal winning floor routine.
You really just signed, sealed, delivered that one, didn't you? But anyway, Amanda, I want to know, like, how do you feel about the way this was handled? Should Jordan Chiles give back her bronze, or should she just take the bronze clock Flavor Flav promised her?
Oh my God, did you see that? He tweeted out this gorgeous bronze clock, and the viral tweet I saw was Jordan Chiles' mom, who was saying, "Thank you, my daughter is not on social right now, but this will mean a lot to her." How did they handle it? Atrociously. In there, I thought the Sen was the main villain of these games. Villain era, these people. I mean, there's so much wrong here. I mean, you read the quote, and they literally said, "We're just not going to consider new evidence." But the entire basis for withholding the bronze medal from Jordan Chiles and reallocating it is the timing issue. And if they're going to insist on this timing issue, it is insane they don't have like their own video capture or time keep. So
where's
apparently
the
US didn't have access to this video prior to the Court of Arbitration of Sport saying actually she doesn't get the bronze medal. So it just seems, I mean, they really botched this one.
Yeah.
I'm glad the U.S. is really pushing for it. I bet this is going to be something that plays out over kind of like a couple months. And did you see that even the Romanians were saying just split the medal 3 ways, because actually Jordan's revised score brought her up above 2 other Romanian gymnasts. So technically, like the Romanians were like, we just want a bronze medal. We don't need her to.
We don't need to take away. We don't need to dim her sparkle.
But then immediately they were like, we're taking it away from Jordan. She needs to return it immediately. Like she's some sort of like criminal holding on to stolen property. This has been handled absolutely atrociously. I mean, the judges got it wrong. Also, something interesting is that the reason why they only had a minute, which they got their request in for a minute. Usually the coaches have before the score of the next competitor shows, which is usually like, I think a minute and change. It's usually more than a minute. Because she was last, they only had a minute. So it's just the entire basis on which they are taking away this medal is completely flawed. And they say, actually, we have the video. And they say, sorry, the decision's made. They're not even saying, oh, your evidence is incorrect. I mean,
what's the point of letting someone even appeal if you're going to be like, presenting them with the evidence and they're like, nah, psych, forget it.
I would go to war for Jordan Chiles. What's your reaction to this?
I have the same one, but I'm also curious, like, where the judges at in all this? Has anyone heard a peep?
Silence.
Silence. They've taken a vow of silence since then.
Right. They're the ones that really messed this up. They did not stick the landing. Like you said, Jordan Chiles, they incorrectly gauged her difficulty score, but there's another Romanian gymnast who was also sort of who got bumped up if you change Jordan's, who they said that she jumped out of bounds during one point and she actually didn't. So they just like, what were they doing? Where were they even looking? I know. So many problems here, and it's just such a shame. I mean, these athletes work their whole lives for this, especially the last 4 years, and I think it's pretty fair to expect the judges are going to use their eyes to see correctly what is happening, and they didn't. So many errors here, and none of them are coming from the gymnasts.
And it makes you wonder, like, what other
my God
are the judges doing?
Totally.
I'm sorry, I no disrespect for all judges everywhere, but like, come on, like, that's your job, got to be on top of your game. I saw this one tweet that was like, the CIS is not ready for the one Olympic sport that we haven't seen the U.S. duel out in, and that is litigation. We'll see you in the courts. We're settling this in the courts.
Absolutely. And again, it might be over a couple of months, but I will be watching this very, very closely. I mean, Jordan Chiles winning the bronze medal gave us perhaps the most viral, incredible moment of the games. Yeah. Was her and Simone Biles bowing down to Rebecca Andrade.
Is that not enough for these people?
I know, right? To end this, Blake, what do you think about the suggestion from the Romanian Gymnastics Federation that, hey, let's have all 3 of them share the bronze?
Irrevocably, I'm going to say, let's split this bronze. Let's give them all bronze. Why not?
Right. I mean, again, like, we don't know if Jordan's fine with that. She hasn't said.
I cannot speak for her.
But I would suspect she is. And it's like we talked about in our last episode, that moment when the 2 pole vaulters in 2021, or high jumpers rather, immediately agreed to split the gold.
No questions asked.
No problem. Okay, sure, fine. I don't understand what the issue is here. So it seems like if all of the athletes are aligned with it, especially because it just seems like the most fair solution. It's not a giveaway. It's not a handout. Yeah. Given all of the errors here from everybody but the gymnast, it just seems like the most fair solution. So I don't know, chip away at that Eiffel Tower, make a couple more bronze medals, get it done. All right, moving on to our next story. I'm fired up, but we got to move on. We got to move on to our next story in the press box, which is lighter, more humorous vibes. It involves one of the viral sensations of the Paris Olympics, who took the stage this past Friday in the breaking competition, which we previewed. I am, of course, talking about Australian B-girl Raygun, aka Dr. Rachel Gunn, PhD.
Do not forget the doctor.
No, put some respect on her name. Raygun became definitely one of the most memed athletes of the games when her signature kangaroo and sprinkler moves became just, she didn't win the gold, but she won social media gold, absolutely. She was adorned in a distinctive green and yellow tracksuit and a baseball cap. The 36-year-old breaker became just an overnight sensation. Blake, before we get any further into this, what did you think when you first saw this, when this came across your feed? Were you like, oh, this is genuinely from the breaking competition? We're like, oh, this is just like a funny sketch somebody posted.
No, I knew it was definitely real. I will say my mouth was agape the entire time watching her, just the way she kind of like cleaned that floor with her rotating, I don't know, leg work.
Right. Human Roomba. She was having fun.
She was. And I think like a theme that I'm coming back to as I get older is just the audacity. Like I just need to.
You mean that in a good way?
Yeah, I need to channel that in my own life. Like she got
audacious.
Yeah, very audacious. She got that full expenses paid trip to Paris. Should do her thing on that international stage. Why can't I? You know what I mean?
Totally.
Why
That's
not?
That's how I feel. If you feel any type of way about a specific athlete's performance, they didn't decide. They didn't beg to be there. Somebody said breaking should be in there. She was apparently the best person in Australia at it to send. What would she be like? No, I actually don't think I should go. Like,
it's she's gonna take that.
Is just an absolute, like, you know, she really sets the model for suppressing your imposter syndrome. Just go to Paris and mop the floor with yourself.
Following the scrutiny, though, Gunn did post a quote to Instagram saying, you know, don't be afraid to be different. Go out there and represent yourself. You never know where that's going to take you. I mean, where it took her to the depths of the internet. Honestly, when you were talking about the fact that it was like one of the most memed moments,
she brought so much joy
of the games, and it's like we already had so many memes. I didn't know how many more we could squeak out, but that was over Friday or Saturday.
Impressive.
It was incredible.
We had Pommel Horse Guy. After Pommel Horse Guy, I think she surpassed them.
I think so too. And you know, Dr. Gunn's PhD thesis actually focuses on the intersection of gender and Sydney, Australia's breaking culture. And I was really taken by the conspiracy theories that have come up on the internet. Again, I repeat, conspiracy theories, no fact checking here, just some food for thought for you all listening. Some on X have accused her of using the games to protest and the state of her competition to protest the institutionalization of breaking, because her scholarly work actually argues that the subculture of breaking is at risk of being co-opted by officials. No. What other place to put that message on display than the international stage? And there was another thing that I read about a tweet from a CUNY sociology professor who basically was speculating that this was a breaching experiment, which is a thing, something that they do in sociology, that you just basically exhibit behavior that violates societal norms and just basically see how people react. And react they did. They sure did.
It was just silly. I didn't know it was this highbrow.
That's what I mean. I mean, again,
Stan.
Conspiracy theories. But she really did. I love that part about the Olympics is that, like, on the surface level, they're just these games, competition. But then you can really just zoom the hell out and come up with a breaching experiment. You know what I mean? It's just, it's incredible. But the real takeaway here is that, unfortunately, breaking will not be returning for the 2028 games in LA. Breaking made the short list of elective sports, but was beat out by sports such as baseball, softball, flag football, and others.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, we should say there were others who were doing an exceptional job.
They were.
But newer sports in the games. Definitely some interesting routines that perhaps didn't meet the level of athleticism and skill we were used to seeing from Paris. But like you said, for Raygun, perhaps it's about something deeper. And I look forward to hopefully she publishes her thesis widely.
Yes.
All right, to close out today's press box, we will do so with what else? The closing ceremony of the Paris Olympics. I can't believe what I'm saying. The Olympics have closed. The ceremony has happened. This featured a procession of athletes and musical performances. The closing ceremony is, it's rarely a cause of headlines, but this one I definitely saw some people talking about. One celebrity brought it to the forefront on Sunday. Tom Cruise. In Mission Impossible style, Tom Cruise descended from the roof of Paris's Stade de France, grabbing the Olympic flag, and took off on a motorcycle for Los Angeles. So this transition, which was clearly, obviously, pre-filmed, Cruise was shown skydiving with the flag and then helping to deliver it to a concert celebration to kick off the transition to the next Summer Olympics.
I was wondering what the hell Tom Cruise was doing on the sidelines at the USA Brazil game over the weekend. I was like, is he just there for the funsies? But he had other things.
Yeah, he had a job to do.
Yeah, he did. It was pretty remarkable, I would say. It definitely felt like what the opening ceremony should have been. But the build-up, now we're focusing on the build-up to the 2028 Los Angeles Games. I can't even believe we're already talking about an event that's going to take place in 4 years, but here we are. Amanda, now that these games are over, like, what are some of the takeaways you've had from the past weeks? And what are you looking for this next time around in 4 years?
Yeah, when I was thinking about this, I think one thing about the Olympics that are really cool is that they make new celebrities. They educate you about new people. So what I'm looking forward to the most is, like, I want to see Sha'Carri come back and get an individual gold. She is an Olympic gold medalist, but I want to see her come back and win that 100 or compete in the 200. Like she said, she's like, I'm not back. I'm better. I think she's going to be coming back. Same with Gabby Thomas. Eager to see Hesley Rivera maybe come back as a gymnast and see maybe, Simone has sort of played coy. She originally was like, I'm not coming back. And then now she's been like,
never say never.
So to me, I'm really looking forward to seeing some of these athletes that we really fell in love with and got to know, come back and do it again and maybe even improve their odds or set more records. Like we've talked about, these games were really like monoculture.
Yeah. I've been really liking it.
Yeah,
we needed that.
I mean, our country is obviously, there's quite a lot of rifts. And this came, at the end of summer. There's nothing to do. Like, it's where we live. It's way too hot to go out and do stuff. And I think it's just a really interesting, sometimes it feels like if you're not a huge sports fan, the barrier to entry can feel quite high. There's so many leagues, there's so many games, the schedules can get complicated, the sort of rivalries and context can be difficult to sort of jump right into, especially for women. Like, you can say like, oh, I kind of like basketball. And then somebody's like, oh, well, name 5 players. The Olympics, it's like you just turn on your TV and you're going to see, you don't have to make any decisions. You're just going to see some incredible sports, some incredible athletic opportunities.
And you know what? I bet a lot of us really can name 5 players now.
Right, exactly.
Across many sports, which is remarkable.
For sure. And of course, the memeability. We saw this in Tokyo, but something about this year, what's interesting from like a media analysis perspective is that we know as social media editors, NBC really gatekeeps this content. And I'm surprised this hasn't sort of backfired on them. Basically, if you try to post a video on Instagram of anything that happens at the Olympics, it will get taken down. You can post photos, but you can't really post videos. And I do wonder if that had the effect of everybody would be like, all right, I'm just going to like tune in. And everybody was watching the same thing at the same time. It's a really beautiful moment. I mean, like you probably did, I saw a lot of the tweets and memes at the end, like, now I'm abandoning my patriotism, and I think that is something that sort of like feels good to kind of embrace for a couple weeks. It's like, I don't know if I'm a fan of the Ravens. I don't know if I'm a fan of the Celtics. I just know that I can be a fan of American athletes. Yeah. And it's just a great way to all be on the same team for a very brief period.
I know. I mean, you've lived through many Olympics at this point.
Shots fired.
But I'm like, okay, can you remember post-Olympics of years past, how fast does that like unity, that Team USA unity shed?
I feel like we've got probably like a month or so of like, well, I mean, the other thing that's important to know is that the Paralympics start at the end of this month.
Right.
And I think that those are always incredible. And I think with the sort of like euphoric vibes people got from these Summer Olympics in Paris, I do suspect that even more people will be tuning into those. I mean, the feats of athleticism at the Paralympics are probably in many ways
greater,
more impressive. So I'm excited to see that enthusiasm hopefully applied to the Paralympics. We usually see like a couple months of these athletes kind of like being on every talk show. Yeah. Interestingly, with the Olympics, like they always happen during an election year. So I would guess by like mid-October, the news cycle's been kind of taken over. But like you said, like these people are celebrities, and they're gonna be celebrities now, and a lot of them have become mainstream celebrities, which is fun.
So, given that they're gonna take place in LA next time, are you gonna go?
I don't think I'm gonna go. Are you gonna go?
Well,
I don't like
honestly,
crowds.
valid. You're gonna have a kid.
Yeah, all the 4-year-olds.
Right.
There is part of me that was like, it would have been really cool to be in Paris. I do have some regret that it never occurred to me. I mean, it would have been. I saw one like family of 4 say that like in total they spent about like $7,000 going for a family, which I mean that's a lot of money. Not a lot of people have that just like on hand. For a family of 4 though, I would bet they made their Airbnb reservation like years ago. But
true.
I mean, LA is gonna be pretty. Wait,
I saw something that said, I think it was just a headline, so don't quote me on this, but the LA organizers are like, the games will only be accessible by public transportation.
No, I think that's true. Yeah.
So the Seine River is to Paris as this public transportation dream is to LA. We'll see how that plays out. That definitely doesn't make me want to go. You know what? I'm going to say here on this podcast, you can quote me on this in 4 years. I'll go for the public transportation, see if that plays out. Yeah, totally. I mean, for other reasons, of course, too. But I'll be the representative. Wow, I'll be 29 years old. Oh, wow. Wait, no, I'll be 30. You sure you're going to be okay on your feet that long? Jesus. All right, now let's break down some of the biggest sports moments from the closing days of the Paris Olympics. We will start with basketball. All you, Amanda. Let's go.
Blake, remember at the beginning of this podcast when I said, sometimes competitive games, they're just more fun. Like you're at the edge of your seat.
This was too close.
Who is that girl? Absolutely. She was wrong. I take that back. My nervous system needs 7 calendar days to recover.
Heart rate was elevated for sure.
Of a lot of those basketball games. They were tough. So 2 of the biggest events headlining this past weekend were the conclusion to the men's and women's basketball tournaments. Team USA took home gold in both events, beating out home country France in both instances. So both gold medal finals were against France. The home crowd was loud and very enthusiastic, and they were both too close for
as
comfort.
You said, yes.
Yeah, let's get into it. So first, we will start with the men. The men are always first, as we know, in many aspects. They faced their biggest challenge yet on Thursday when Serbia took a 17-point lead in the semifinal. Scary. This was scary. Mm-hmm. It took a career-defining for Steph Curry. It was intense. 36 points from Steph Curry, along with heroic performances from LeBron James and Joel Embiid to regain the lead. I mean, some people are referring to this game as one of the best international basketball games ever. All right, then comes Saturday when France pushed Team USA to the absolute brink. And again, Steph Curry had to play hero with an iconic 4 made 3-pointers in the final 3 minutes to secure a 98-87 gold medal victory. That's a pretty healthy lead, but it came really quickly in those last couple minutes. It was unreal to see Steph Curry go on that run. And again, people calling these games 2 of the best games in Olympic history. It was really thrilling to watch. I talked to a lot of NBA fans who are not fans of the Golden State Warriors and who that's a rival of them. They're like, I've never cheered for Steph Curry so hard. The cognitive dissonance was unreal, but it was a real moment of patriotism. Like, oh my God, that guy's on.
Yes.
God, did you see the translation of some of the French commentary?
No, I should
listen. It was so funny. They were like, this devil named Curry is hurting us.
Oh my God.
Because he was just going for, parts in that fourth quarter, like it really looked like France had a chance. It looked like a pretty even match towards the end. But I think that game you could pretty fairly say that Team USA was playing better throughout. There are some games where the score might be close, but there's clearly one team that's playing better than the other. And there are some where they're really just like neck and neck and both struggling. And we'll talk about that with the women's game.
Were you watching live or no?
Yeah, I watched the second half of this one live.
Were they visibly sweating? Like, did they look like stressed in the face? Were they kind of just like
a little bit, but not crazy.
Okay.
A little bit. They looked like they knew how to. They had Steph Curry.
So
Wonder Boy. He turns it on, if he's hot, and every 3 was like harder than the one before it. It was unbelievable. All right, then on Sunday, it was time for the women's final between Team USA and France. This was on bright and early at 9:30 on Sunday. This time things were even closer. They were close the whole game. Pretty much the whole game was like a 2-possession game. It was within like 5 points. At one point, France had a 10-point lead, which was a little scary. And then it was neck and neck through the whole fourth quarter. I think thanks to Kalia Copper, the U.S. broke away a little bit. But like in the last 20 seconds, France made a couple baskets. They got to the free throw line. And then U.S. was a couple points ahead and looked a little bit comfortable for how much time was left. But French forward Gabby Williams, who was actually a former WNBA player, made a buzzer-beating shot. She got it in right at the buzzer. Her foot was on the line. Like, to me, I saw it. I thought it was a 3, but the announcer immediately was like 2. There's a really funny picture of Brianna Stewart just like pointing at the line with 2 fingers up. Like, that was 2. And that brought the score to 67-68. Had she launched it a millisecond earlier, it would have sent the game into extra time. And then it was anyone's game. There was no guarantee that the U.S. would have won. Some highlights here. American starter Asia Wilson scored a game high of 21 points. She had a lot of attempts because there were a lot that she missed. Listen, the women's final was not the most beautiful game of basketball anyone's ever seen. It was the type of game that if you're a sexist man on the internet that loves to, so to speak, dunk on female athletes, they loved it. Caitlin Clark was trending because people were like, this is a huge mistake. Why wasn't Caitlin Clark on this team? There were just a lot of mistakes on both sides. Like I said, like with the men's team, I would say that the U.S. was definitely playing better the whole game, and this one was a little bit closer. I think the USA definitely had a little bit stronger of a game. But there were some moments that were tough to watch. The U.S. women, they were turning it over pretty constantly. They looked pretty frazzled. They had to have, I think it was like over 20 turnovers. It got a lot better in the second quarter. There were some rotations that didn't make sense. Like, when when the coach would put in new players, they had some really effective minutes and they were able to get some buckets, and then she would pull them out. It was very stressful. It was very confusing. I had a doctor's appointment, like I was late to it. They were mad at me because I had to see, when a game's that close and you have 20 seconds, it actually takes like 5 minutes.
Yes.
Because they have timeouts. They end up fouling each other a lot. It takes a long time. I was so convinced I would come out of that doctor's appointment, and maybe I'm now traumatized by Jordan Chiles, the situation, that I was going to have a news alert that said, France appeals, like final score, like they share the gold, or the game goes into extra time. It was tough. There was a lot of discourse around, this is why women aren't good. It was not their best game ever. That's going to happen.
Yeah. Also the pressure that they're under, considering they haven't lost since 92. Like, you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be that girl who loses. You know what I mean? It's just like, I can't even imagine.
Wilson at the end, she was like, you know what? We take the ugly wins. We got the gold.
Yeah.
Of course, if you were a fan, you wanted to see a U.S. run at the end where they just took it away with 10 points. That didn't happen, but the outcome's the same. A lot of people were unbelievably impressed with Gabby Williams. Hadn't seen her before. She's actually played in the States before, but she plays in Europe now. And there are interviews where she says she does that because they don't pay enough to play in the States.
I got bills to pay.
Really losing out on incredible talent. So again, that girl that said, I love close games. I do not love close games. I was just losing my absolute
mind. But then when they won, you were probably so satisfied. You're like, secured the bag. But it was at what
very
cost?
Satisfying. But both teams in that game shot under 34% from the floor and committed, like we said, double-digit turnovers, which is not what you want to see. But they grinded it out, both of them. I mean, France is incredible. It does seem like, I think it poses the question: is the rest of the world catching up to the United States? Because even though this was a tough game to watch, it was not their best game. As an athlete, you're going to have off nights, and if several of your people are having off nights, that's pretty tricky. Is this an indication that the rest of the world is catching up, or this was just like a bad night for Team USA, and to win an Olympic gold medal on a bad? I just want to acknowledge, we're saying their bad night is winning an Olympic gold medal, but I would bet that the team that takes the Olympics in LA is gonna be like, we're not going to let a final like that happen again. And I bet Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese will be on those teams.
That'll be fun to watch.
Yeah. What were your thoughts on seeing how close that was?
Just feels like, the gap is sort of getting closer. I mean, I don't think anybody really anticipated that Team USA would not win. However, the fact that it did get so close, I mean, how could you say that the other teams internationally are not getting better? I don't know.
Right, especially as some of them come and they play in the WNBA, which is the best league in the world, and they learn a lot and they grow a lot from that. One thing I also said earlier in the podcast was that I felt like some of the women's games weren't as physical, and I was like, maybe international basketball just isn't as physical. This game was physical. They were all over each other. It was intense, but a really stressful but fun game to watch, and I hope it made a lot of women's basketball fans, because like we said at the top, the WNBA season, it picks back up, I think, next week, and then we're about a month away from the playoffs, which are going to be super fun to watch. I can't wait to get back down to Barclays and watch my Liberty play.
On to our next sport, track and field. The track and field teams grabbed the most headlines in the final weekend of the competition, and none were more anticipated than the men's 200-meter final. We talked about this in our last episode. I was like, Noah Lyles got it in the bag. Oh, baby. Yeah. He did not have it in the bag.
No way.
American star Noah Lyles failed to bring home gold in the event, and that prize instead went to Letziel Tebogo of Botswana. Lyles ended up getting the bronze instead. And as some of us probably know at this point, Lyles collapsed on the track, and not long after, news broke that he was actually suffering from COVID-19. And his coach, Lance Brauman, later revealed that he was battling a 102-degree fever. I mean, considering that he had COVID, bronze medal, not that bad.
Also crazy that the rules are just like, if you have COVID, it's up to you.
Yeah, like I mean, what a change up from the last Olympics. But what was your reaction when you watched him collapse? And do you think he should have just not competed? Like, what do you...
Yeah, he probably should have not. But you know what?
He probably should have not done that.
He had an Olympic gold medal. As we've talked about, Noah Lyles is a character. He's pretty blustery. He's pretty arrogant. Again, I've said, I don't think he's a bad dude.
Yeah.
He just has a lot of confidence. I think he likes that. I think he thinks that kind of bravado and that kind of trash talking is good for elevating track and field. So we'll probably hear him, bragging about getting a bronze even with 102-degree fever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was pretty nervous when he collapsed. I mean, like we said, this is his event. Like him winning the 100 wasn't guaranteed. He always wins the 200. But it did give us that historic moment of the Botswana.
I mean, if I were him, I'd be glad that I won the race that I was not favored to win, honestly.
Totally.
Like, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, but I do believe, he should not have competed. I think there should be guidelines that stopped him. Doesn't COVID impact your heart?
Probably.
Yeah. All right, Blake, that brings us to one of my personal favorite images of these entire Olympic Games. No relay was as triumphant or memorable as the women's 4x100 meter final. That's when Gabby Thomas passed the final baton to American Sha'Carri Richardson, who sprinted past the field and gave a now iconic side eye to her competitors as she crossed the finish line.
That bombastic side eye.
The quickest but most effective side eye anyone has ever seen. They were behind. She had some ground to cover, and she did it and had time and the presence of mind to take a look and say bye.
She knew what she was doing with that. She was like, this is going to get picked up.
Absolutely.
She knew, and I love that for her. I wonder what that must have felt like, knowing she had it in the bag. And did you think it felt like a redemption arc to her, given, she was disqualified from competing in Tokyo in 2021? I
think she saw, there must have been something about this race versus the prior one where maybe she just saw the gold medal within reach. She knew she had it, and everything that she'd been fighting for decades probably was right in front of her, and you could see it all over her face, and it was incredible. And it was a team win too, which made it even more gratifying. However, Blake, it was not all golds for Team USA. The 4x100 men's team final, that team failed to make the medal stand for the 5th straight Olympics. This time around, they were disqualified for failing to complete the first baton exchange. This follows a series of similar mistakes. Since 1995, the U.S. has suffered 11 baton errors.
Oh my God.
Immediately after the race, so legendary track and field athlete Carl Lewis, he went on social media and he voiced his extreme displeasure with this. And he said, just what is going on here? Quote, "It's time to blow up the system."
Oh my God.
This continues to be completely unacceptable. It is clear that everyone at USA Track and Field is more concerned with relationships than winning. No athlete should step on the track and run another relay until this program is changed from the top to bottom. Something suggesting something's wrong here with who is selected, who is able to execute this. Speed is obviously key to winning these races, but being able to do a successful baton
handoff, I could literally never compete in that.
Oh my God.
I'd be not the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, even some of them in the women's weren't perfect, but they were able to make up the ground. But yeah, imagine the most iconic athlete in your field being like, get it together. Something is you have made such a grievous mistake that something is existentially wrong
with the program.
The 5th time. He's right. He
is right. And I hope that this is something they cover in Sprint Season 2, because what the hell is going on? I want an update on this storyline. We cannot finish these Olympics conversations without giving credit to the American women for bringing home a gold medal in soccer after a nail-bitingly close 1-0 victory over Brazil on Saturday. The self-proclaimed triple espresso, we talked about them last episode, and the front line came through with Mallory Swanson scoring the deciding goal in the 57th minute. And American goalkeeper Alyssa Nair had perhaps the game of her life with several heart-stopping saves in the second half. I saw her. She was diving. She was clutching. I love watching the goalkeepers just pause there for a second, hold that thing, and then get up, resume the game. Oh, it's one of my favorite moments of soccer. But what will you remember most about this team?
I mean, I think I'll remember the discourse going into the Olympics, the ambitions from the roster. This is definitely a different U.S. women's national team than we're used to seeing. They're younger, brand new coach. I think that will be what's remembered, is that Emma Hayes just came in with a lot of doubt, a lot of questions about how she was going to get this done with this team. And she did it, and they did it. And I was so happy for them. I mean, always the U.S. women's national team is iconic for their after parties. That was, I will say, more fun to watch than the game, because like you said, it was nail-bitingly
90 minutes
close.
too.
And like I said on the last episode, that pitch is too big.
Mm-hmm.
They are running too much. It was hot. It is too tiring.
Yeah.
Really close. Nobody scoreless in the first half, and then Mallory Swanson just got an absolutely perfect
beautiful
goal. But Brazil, like you said, got some good looks at the end. But Alyssa Nair, she wins every game for us. I mean, without her, and she is somebody who has been on this team for a very, very, very long time. She's always there. And
she's always there.
to see her have saves that you take them for granted, but then you'll see like most other goalkeepers would miss that. Like I just watch her and think, does she have any like self-preservation instinct? I don't think she can. Like in a game like that, I feel like you're like, I don't care how I land. This is the gold medal match.
She was taking one for the team.
Absolutely.
She was ready to do that.
Throwing her entire body on the line. A lot of those Brazil attempts absolutely could have made it in, but really, really proud of this team. Like we've talked about, another sort of like redemption moment. So really exciting. And I hope this brings even more attention to soccer in the US, because it doesn't get nearly as much attention as it does in Latin America and Europe.
As always, we conclude this episode of Well Played with a game created by our producers here at theSkimm. And today's game is called Skimm superlatives, as we would say in French, and features a list of some of our most memorable people and moments from these games. Think of it as like our yearbook superlatives for the Paris Games. And Amanda, are you ready to award our Skimm superlatives for Paris 2024?
Let's do it. All right, we have quite a long list here. We're going to start with some silly ones, and then we'll do the earnest ones. Most likely to get an underwear partnership. Who else but Anthony Ammirati, whose bulge likely did not prevent him from medaling, but that was the storyline we all ran.
We're running with it.
And I think he ought to embrace this, like we've said, and make some money off of it. Why not? Most likely to be appointed to the Department of Defense. As we said, Alyssa Nair, but also Naomi Girma, defense player for the U.S. Women's National Team. She got it out of there. Like, I was just screaming on my TV, like, Naomi, get it out of there. And she did so many times. Most likely to summon an army on her behalf is, of course, Jordan Chiles. I am personally ready to go to war.
She is ready to enlist.
Whether she asks me or not. I'll just do it for her. Most likely to help you find a rebound is our rebound queen, Asia Wilson. I mean, watching her, like we said, it was a tougher game for her, but she never gives up. She never gives up. Every time the ball bounces off the glass, she's there, she's getting it, she's trying again. Next up, most likely to build a media empire based on being everyone's parasocial bestie. At least she's mine, Ilona Maher. I think she should start a podcast. I think she should start a newsletter.
She will. It's in the works. Come on, let's be real.
She has earned it. She earned it years ago, but this is the year for sure. Most likely to break the glass ceiling just by hitting it while airborne, I've got to say, is Simone Biles. I mean, the height that she got, unreal. Most likely to cure all of society's ills, both physiological and figurative, is got to be Harvard educated scientist and track athlete, Gabby Thomas. I think she can just fix every problem we have. She's one of these people that I think is going to become like an A-list celebrity from these games. I think she probably wants that the least.
True.
But is definitely on track, so to speak. There you go.
The pun, oh my God.
Most likely to be remembered for all the wrong reasons. Of course, we return to the Seine. I Googled this again yesterday, and the first headline that came up was that there was like a Canadian swimmer that vomited 9 times.
No. After swimming?
Yeah, let's just retire. Swimming in the Seine, it's over.
Let's not do it.
No. Maybe this was all just sort of like an elaborate campaign from the French government to keep people from trying to swim in there. Like we tried, we spent $1 billion.
You see what happens when you fuck around and find out?
We spent $1 billion trying to clean it. It's still not clean. Forget about it. And most likely to break their own world records just during a random practice by accident are definitely Katie Ledecky and Sydney McLaughlin-Lerone. Absolutely just ballers this Olympics.
And to close out our Skimm superlatives, we have 3 more categories, and those are for the most memorable viral moment, the most heartwarming moment, and best overall performer. First up, let's talk memes. Here are the nominees according to our producers. Bob the cap catcher, icon who dove into the pool to help our swimmers retrieve their caps. Turkish shooter Yusuf Dikeç and his casual hand-in-the-pocket pose. I wish I could be as unbothered as this man. And honorable mention for South Korean pistol shooter Kim Ye-ji and her futuristic headgear.
Yeah, was not expecting to stand pistol shooters this Olympics,
never.
But I will never forget these two.
Anthony, gotta show up and show out again for my man, Anthony Ammirati. His bulge getting him eliminated in the pole vault. Our Clark Kent, Stephen Nedorosik, taking off his glasses and slaying on the pommel horse. Australia's Rachel Gunn, a.k.a. Raygun, breaking her little heart out.
I mean, I think if we're talking about volume of memes, it's got to go to Raygun. Yeah. I definitely saw the most. If we're talking about just quality of memes, diversity of approaches and storylines, to me, it's Pommel Horse Guy.
Really? I'm going to say I was going to go for Turkish Shooter.
Yeah.
Because he started out as a meme and then did you see the Olympians who were kind of like assuming his position at the ceremony?
Games? That's so true. And you know what? He and the
real life impact.
Some people were doing memes of them side by side.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting.
Food for thought. Yeah. Okay, next up we have the most heartwarming moment, and the nominees are high jumper Gianmarco Tamberi of Italy coming to the aid of his old friend Mutaz Barshim of Qatar. Love that moment. Simone Biles and Jordan Chiles celebrating Rebecca Andrade's victory with the all-black podium. Yeah. Amanda Khalif's overcoming her online hate and winning a gold medal in women's boxing. Tara Davis-Whittle and her husband Hunter's reaction after she won gold. I mean, this is impossible. This is a hard list.
Yeah.
Do you think you have a pick?
For me, there's like most heartwarming is probably Tara and Hunter. I think they should be the next hosts of Love is Blind.
They should.
To me, that's their next iteration. They're incredible. But for me, one of the most gratifying moments of these games were definitely Amanda Khalif.
Yes, I would
gold.
say it wasn't as heartwarming because it was a really difficult situation. I think gratifying is the right word for that one. She deserved it.
Yeah, she really deserved it. You could just see all over her face how much it meant to her, how much she had to fight to get to that moment. Everybody in that room was really celebrating her and knew what she went through. And I think she is like pursuing basically legal action within France for what happened, for the intense bullying that happened to her. And I'm glad she's not just letting this go.
Yeah.
Because I'm glad she's setting the example that there are consequences to treating people this way. Because like we've said, anytime a female athlete doesn't meet certain standards for what women are supposed to look like, people say, oh, she's a man, like where's the beard? And it's not acceptable. And I'm glad that she is holding firm and making an example out of them.
Yeah. In a very public way. Totally. Of course. And so we close out the Skimm Superlatives with our best overall performance.
Wow.
This is going to be a big one. The nominees include French swimmer Léon Marchand with 4 golds and 1 bronze, Simone Biles with 3 golds and a silver, including the team all-around and individual all-around, Mondo Duplantis with his world record and gold medal in the pole vault. That was a roaring stadium. I remember watching live. Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone with world records in the 400-meter hurdles and 4x400 relay. And Katie Ledecky with 2 golds, 1 silver, and 1 bronze. So girlish to get, a medal in each of 1 medal.
This is so I do want
let's talk through our options for a bit here.
We haven't actually talked about Leon very much on the show, but he definitely one of the breakout stars, obviously, of these Olympics. So important to the French spectators. So to me, I would put it's so hard to choose. I mean, I can't. I'm looking at our list here. Obviously, I feel like our girlies, Sydney and Katie, just completely dominated every time I looked at the internet. They had broken another world record. They won their events by a lot. And to me, that brings them to the top. Simone is obviously GOAT, and her specific, the events she competes in tend to be closer anyway. But just those images of Sydney and Katie, literally their competitors not even in view, to me, that brings them to the top of best performances.
I'm going to go for the unpopular opinion, which with French swimmer Léon Marchand, not because I think it's
very popular in France.
Yes, I think it's just because of the, I don't want to say underdog because he's not an underdog, but just like the breaching of like celebritydom, if you will.
He wasn't really memed that much.
Yeah, he
didn't have a pastry at Olympic Village that he became associated with, but he was just like doing the work. You know?
He came, he swam, he conquered.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to give him my gold for that category.
All right, I'm happy with that.
Amanda. That is it for this episode of Well Played.
Are we going to skydive now and go to LA?
I'm down if you're down.
I'm not down.
Okay. Well, and as we learned,
we got to make sure you make it to 30.
29.
The old age of 29.
But I just want to get a little, before we close out the show, vibe check over the Olympics. Like, how are you feeling right now?
Tremendous. I'm so sad they're over, but like we said, the Paralympics are around the corner, and they're going to give us, again, just so much incredible content, so many just unbelievably inspirational moments like the Summer Olympics did. But yeah, we only had to wait 3 years since Tokyo. So it's going to feel like it's really going to stretch, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Period. Okay. The Olympic Games, like I said, have come to a close, but we will be back in just a few weeks with all new episodes starting on Tuesday, September 3rd, just in time for NFL kickoff. I have my fantasy league draft next week. I'm very excited. First time drafter personally. But if you're a sports fan of any kind, you could be a lukewarm sports fan. You could be an NFL diehard. You could be a WNBA diehard. I don't care. come subscribe to the show and come listen to our conversations that are going to be starting up, like I said, in 2 weeks from now on September 3rd. We got you covered on all the biggest sports stories and conversations dominating your feeds. I will be here and eagerly waiting for you. Tell your friends about the show.
And just like this show, we'll be covering the sports analysis of it all, but also just it's sports and culture.
Yeah.
The culture is just as big of a component, and we're gonna be debriefing on that as well. So remember to subscribe to the show wherever you're listening so you don't miss a single episode, and you'll catch us when we come back on September 3rd. Be sure to rate, review, and follow the show on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're listening now. Follow us on Instagram at theSkimm, and be sure, please, to check out our YouTube channel where we have full-length video of today's episode. And as Blake said, we will be back in just a few weeks, Tuesday, September 3rd. Until then, thank you so much for listening to Well Played,
the only podcast in League of Its Own.